In today's video, we're going to talk about practicing. Most people practice their instrument, but they don't really practice how to practice. And that's not really much of a surprise, but if you're looking to achieve quicker results or even greater results, then you can't just focus on how much you practice. You have to focus on the quality of your practice. And so in today's video, I'm going to take 5 tips, 5 things that I've seen and I've learned over my years of performing and also my years as a teacher in order to try and help you guys get better and more efficient practice. Tip number 1 is to simply have a plan. As the saying goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I think most people just kind of go into practicing saying, I'm going to play this song from beginning to end, or I'm just going to work on this thing, right? They don't really have goals, or they don't really have a detailed plan when they go into practice. I would really recommend having a long-term goal, right? And that long-term goal can be anywhere from 1 month to 6 months out, whether that's working on, I want to be able to play this particular solo, I want to be able to play this particular song, I want to learn this particular pattern, rudiment, technique, whatever that is, right? And you want to have that goal as a long-term distance goal, right? And then as you start to break it back, you want to go either month by month or week by week and say, this is the level of progress that I want to achieve. And then when you focus on your actual plan of like individual practice sessions, you can figure out how much time or what percentage of time I think I should allocate during this practice to try and achieve that weekly goal or that monthly goal. And then as you come up closer to your deadlines, if you feel like you're not making the results that you want to achieve, then you can re-examine or reanalyze how much do I need to allocate to that time. The difference between a dream and a goal is a timeline and accountability. And so if you want to achieve a goal instead of just making it a dream, then you need to create some sort of plan long term for when you want to achieve certain goals, and then you just need to keep yourself accountable for how you're going to achieve those different goals. Tip number 2 is to focus on the things that are giving you the most trouble, right? You shouldn't just be playing one song from beginning to end. If you've got 75% of the song down nice and easy and 25% of the song is giving you trouble, then you should be focusing on that 25%, not the 75%, right? Practice is specifically designated for working on the things that are hard for you. And so if you're just playing the song over from beginning to end, you're not actually practicing, right? You're performing, and that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to achieve the goals you want to achieve faster. There's a great book I read recently called Eat That Frog, and the point of the book is most people know the thing that's going to give them the greatest result, but it often is the thing that's the most difficult. And so they put it off and they do little things in the name of progress, when really if they had just done that one most difficult thing, it would have given them not only more progress, but it would have made all the other little things that they did along the way irrelevant. And so you should really be focusing on what's the thing that's the most difficult for me right now, what is giving me the most trouble, and then you should just grind into it and say, this is what I'm going to focus on. And once you iron that out, you'll be amazed the kind of progress that you made. To give you a personal example, the very first song I ever learned, it took me 2 months to get through. And I think a lot of people, they when they first get started, they want to do just 1 or 2 things. They just want to work on a song for 1 or 2 weeks. And then after an allocated amount of time, we just move on no matter what the results are. And that's I guess that makes you feel better about your playing, but it's not actually going to give you the results that you want. Focus on the things that are giving you the most difficulty and then just like plow on through them, and you'll be happier at the end of it than if you had just given up or moved on because we spent enough time anyways. Tip number 3 is to record yourself playing. This is one that a lot of people like to avoid because they kind of have to look at themselves in the mirror and find out what they really sound like behind their instrument. And that can be discouraging, that can be intimidating, but it's really important if you want to take some advanced steps in your playing. There are so many things that you don't see from behind your instruments when you're actively playing. And so the more that you can see yourself from the outside looking in, the more that you can identify the problems, right? Because obviously if you don't see a problem, if you can't identify a problem, then how are you supposed to make that kind of progress? So what you should do, instead of getting super discouraged by it or, super sad by it, is you should instead try to get a little bit more upset about it and say, I know I can do better. I know I can make the results, right? And then over time, you can actually take this thing that feels like a negative and turn it on its head and turn it into a positive, because you can take the old recordings that you had from a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago, and you can compare and contrast over time the level of progress that you've made on a particular riff, technique, song, solo, whatever. Don't cut yourself short by not doing this technique. You have a phone, something that can record you either on video or through audio or whatever. You have no excuse not to be able to do this one. Tip number 4 is to play with the actual recording. The actual recording is the ultimate standard to which we should be holding ourselves to, right? And I get that it's intimidating, and I get that, trying to play perfectly is not exactly it doesn't seem like an achievable goal. But if you don't ever hold yourself to that standard, then you're not going to give yourself a higher bar to try and push past. And so that's what you should do. So nowadays we have so much with technology that helps us along with this. Back when I first started playing, the first ever song I tried to play to, I had to do it section by section, and I had to sit and have the song in Windows Media Player and just go back to that one section over and over and over and over again. Nowadays, you can find pretty much any song that you want to on YouTube, and YouTube has different settings where you can change the playback speed. So if you can't play it at full speed, you can slow it down a little bit to 90%, 80%, 60%. It gets kind of hard to play at 60% because the song starts to sound unrecognizable, right? But you can do that if you want to. So, take advantage of the technology that we have today, and don't skip out on something that should be like a really high ultimate goal. Work your way there. And just like we've talked about in previous sections, you don't have to do the whole song all at once, but you should start with small sections, couple measures, maybe a verse, maybe a chorus, right? And then start to stitch it together until you can do the whole song. The first one is always the most difficult the first time you do this, but as you do it more and more, it will get easier. You're going to learn different skills. You're going to learn how to play through mistakes. You're going to learn how to keep up with the song, different tips and tricks. Like you're also going to force yourself to have to try and keep up, which is not something a lot of people want to do. They're worried about making mistakes, and funnily enough, by slowing down to not make mistakes, you're making the mistake of not keeping up with the recording. So don't look past this pivotal this pivotal point. Really focus on actually playing with the song, and you'll see some pretty incredible results. And then tip number 5 is to be consistent. Consistency beats everything. Not that good long practice sessions aren't bad. And in fact, eventually, as you start to reach certain levels, good long practice sessions are pretty much a necessity. But before you can get to that, you really want to make consistency your ultimate goal. I would rather have, and I tell this to all my students when they first come in, I would rather that you played 15 minutes a day every day than had 1 2-hour practice session every week. You want to get to the point where that habit is so instilled and ingrained in you that but if you get to the end of the day and you haven't played your instrument, whatever it is, that something feels wrong and you have to take time before you go to bed to go and do it. And so there's all sorts of little tips and tricks that you can use to try and make it consistent, and I'm going to give you a couple of those here. So for one, you want to try and tie your practice to another daily habit. With a lot of my younger students, I tell them, practicing your instruments should be part of your homework routine. If you have homework that day, guess what? Practicing your instruments is also part of it. You can also use other things that you do regularly, like you can use your dinner time or lunchtime or whatever as you go throughout the day. You can use that as part of it, so you can say, all right, when I get done with dinner, or before I go have dinner, I need to have played for 15 minutes. You also want to make sure that your instrument is someplace not hidden, right? If you're a guitar player, for example, when you get done with your instrument, don't put it someplace that is hidden, right? Don't put it in a case and then hide it under your bed. Out of sight, out of mind is a problem. I don't ever want to eat jelly beans unless there's a bowl of jelly beans in the middle of the table. And then in that case, every time I pass the table, I want to grab a couple of jelly beans off the table. You can use that psychology the same way with your instruments. You want to put your instrument someplace that you see it, someplace that if you can afford it, that you're going to trip over it, right? Put it in your living room, put it on a stand, put it someplace that you have to see it all the time, because if you see it all the time, then you're going to want to play it all the time. Finally, if you want to be consistent, you should also try and tie your instruments you're practicing to some sort of reward. Maybe you have something that you really like to do. Maybe, for example, you like to go and hop on social media every single day. And not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But you should use that as a gateway to your instrument, right? So maybe you get back home from work, or maybe you get done with school and you're like, I want to go and check out what's going on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever your social media choice is. But before you can do that, you need to go and get your practice done on your instruments, right? So you should gatekeep those things that you want to do with the things that you want to go and achieve. Make it part of your daily ritual, make it your habit, and then you can use that reward mechanism as a way of encouraging your playing. And then by the time you've done that for a certain amount of time, right? Different studies have different amounts of days, but anywhere from 21 to 60 days eventually just becomes a habit that's ingrained in you, and then you have to do it. Kind of a simple one. This is kind of a silly one, but I've been kind of getting back into playing chess lately, and there's a little app that's on my phone for playing that keeps track of streaks, how many days in a row that I've done it. And so at the beginning, my encouragement was I want to keep that streak alive as long as possible. And before I knew it, I had hit 60, 70 days in a row of either playing a game or doing a puzzle or something like that that would help improve my abilities. And now I don't even think about the streak. I just every single day I go, you know what? I haven't played a short game yet today, or I haven't done a puzzle yet today. I need to do that. That's the type of mindset that you want to have when it comes to creating consistent practice. So focus on consistency first and foremost, and then as that consistency builds, then you can focus on longer term sessions to make dramatic progress. Okay, so as I was putting together this video, I originally only had 5 tips, but in the heat of the moment, I've thought of a 6th one that I kind of want to add here. So we're going to do a bonus 6th tip, and that is to play with other people. And that can mean a lot of different things, right? That can mean, going and finding a jam session to go play with, or, goodness forbid, start a band. But that can also be just going and finding a friend, a relative, some sort of Facebook community or group that gets together once every couple of weeks to just go and jam with somebody. Music is a team sport. Music is a language, and the way that you get good at languages is by consistently practicing them with other people. And I can't say it good enough things about this. Like, so many students that I've had who get stuck or want to take a jump, I tell them, go find somebody else that you can play with on a regular basis. And they are always the students who consistently step up their game, and sometimes quite dramatically too. When you have that pressure of, I don't want to completely embarrass myself, like you have a new rejuvenation going into it. I think back to when I was in high school getting ready for my first performance. I practiced more at that point than I had ever practiced at anything in my entire life, because I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of a group of people, right? I didn't want to embarrass myself. I didn't want to embarrass my bandmates. I didn't want to embarrass my girlfriend at the time, right? There's a lot of people I didn't want to embarrass, right? And so it gave me some new rejuvenation and some new vigor, right? Now, I do say this you shouldn't, if you have kids and you want them to get better, don't force them to do this. This is something that should be done voluntarily, because otherwise you're just going to scar them. You definitely want to be ready for it, but I really encourage people, go and play with other people, and you will see some different results. Okay, that's going to do it for today's video. I appreciate you guys tuning in here today. I know it's been a little while since I've posted, and I'm sorry for that. Life has just gotten crazy. We've done all sorts of cool things here at Milwaukee Music Lessons. We started bringing on other teachers on board, so it's no longer just myself and my wife, and that comes with all sorts of new responsibilities. It's also Christmas time, and there's been some family things going on. So for those of you who have been following me in this channel as it continues to grow, I really appreciate you hanging in there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave me a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for things that you want to see, I'm always open to the community feedback. So please let me know what you thought. And if there's anything I can improve upon, I appreciate all the people in the last video who did. So my name is Alex Bennett, and thank you so much. This has been Milwaukee Music Lessons. We'll see you guys in the next video.